I finally worked out how I'm going to do my bases for my Emperor's Children army. Stay tuned to find out more.
Saved by Slaanesh.
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another Saved by Slaanesh episode, and this one I'm very excited to bring you how I'm going to do my bases for my Emperor's Children army. Before that though, if you would like to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please give me a sub and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so at last I've worked out how I'm going to do my bases for my Slaanesh / Emperor's Children army, and I'm very excited to be able to bring to you the base design and also the thought process about how I came to the design itself. So the whole idea of me starting this army this year was to get it ready to paint in 2018. January the 1st I'm going to start painting the army, and I've spent pretty much the whole of this year working out the army. Bearing in mind at the beginning of the year I didn't even have a clue which Chaos Guard I was going to do. I am not familiar with Chaos, even though I have been in the hobby for quite some time. I sort of almost ignored Chaos to my perils, because now Slaanesh is on my back telling me to get my army done, ready to paint next year. I'm going to try and make the army look as awesome as I can get it, and I think part and parcel of that is having some good bases. So that is why I've taken so much time working out how I'm going to do the bases. So first of all, I had to decide on the size of the bases for the army. I have now decided I'm going to go for 32mm bases for the Chaos Space Marines, the Noise Marines, etc. And then all the Demonettes are going to be on the original 25mm bases. So I'm actually going to have a mixture of size. The Demonettes are actually quite small models, so I think it's going to work quite well. So hopefully it's going to give the Noise Marines a bigger presence on the table with those bigger bases. And of course the Demonettes, which will be in a pretty large quantity, will hopefully suit the little bases quite well. So that's the plan. Then I had to come up with the design. What I didn't want to go down the resin base route. One reason for that is I've already done resin bases on my Space Wolves. I do like them, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. I wanted to make my own bases rather than just buying some ready-made ones. And of course there's a bit more cost involved in buying resin bases generally anyway. Now I also wanted to come up with something which I hadn't done before. So I'd already done sort of the rocks and grass on my Eldar, my Necrons have the Dead Tomb World design, my Tyranids have that sort of off-world sandy sort of Mars design, and I really wanted to do something different, and what I came up with I think is definitely different. Now it wasn't until a couple of days ago that I actually made my decision. I've been really thinking about it hard, and one other little thing which was really holding me back was the Demonettes themselves, because their little feet, their little ankles are incredibly thin. So thin, and I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't be able to pin them to a base. Now I had been thinking about using cork on the bases, so I did some experimentation with those Demonette legs, and I actually super glued them onto the cork bases. Now whilst they did stick reasonably well, I was also able to pull them off reasonably well. So I have discounted cork, and I did think about just using the traditional sort of sand, but once again I think super gluing those feet onto sand probably also wouldn't be that great. Plus I wanted to get away from just using sand on my bases. I wanted something special for these. So then I had a little thought back to a video actually from the Warhammer TV team, where they made a video about gluing rocks to your models' feet before you glue them onto the base. And I thought that could be quite good for models which have a very small area where you can't actually pin them. So I experimented with that. I just got a little rock out the garden and I glued it to the Demonette foot, and it glued really well. It was pretty strong, much stronger than on the cork. So that's where I got the initial idea for using rocks. So I thought maybe rather than using rocks, maybe I could use slate, because slate generally is a little bit flatter, maybe a little bit easier to stand your minis on to glue them into position. So I had that little idea in the back of my mind. I also had all of the ideas that you gave me on the very first video I made about bases. I'll link you up that to here, just in case you're interested in checking that out. and you all came up with some really great ideas. One running theme to that was to have a green base, because green would really complement the purple and black of the army. And indeed, if you have a look at the colour wheel, that purple and pink's the opposite colour is actually around that sort of greeny yellow colour. So I thought that was a good idea. However, I really couldn't work out what to do. I didn't want sort of big like tufts of grass and stuff coming up. I didn't really want to use grass. So I thought I'd just try to get some inspiration. So I just went on eBay and I started searching bases, green bases. There's quite a number of images that came up, but there was one that really struck me, and that's this image here. Now, as you can see, it's green, it's sort of a lava-y thing, except it's not lava, and it's got those slate rocks on. Now, as I'm coming quite close to building these noise marines, I felt I really had to make a decision on the bases. And I found these bases, they sort of struck home. They were green, they weren't lava, but they were sort of lava. They had the slate rocks on. Of course, these bases are resin, but I thought I could easily make these bases myself with some slate, maybe some green stuff. So I took it upon myself to say, this is the base that I'm going to do. So I decided to share it. So I shared this idea with my fellow Legion of Gamza members in our little Legion of Gamza group, and I got some feedback from them, and this was the feedback that I had. The general consensus was that the bases look great, but they look very Nurgle-ish. The green, I think, is what's doing it. Now, bearing in mind that I was looking for green bases because that was the opposite colour on the wheel to the pink and purples that I was going to be using. But yeah, lots of the feedback that I got was that the green was very much like Nurgle, and looked like Nurgle slime. So I thought, well, how about I change those little bulbous sections into skulls, or possibly into tentacles, bearing in mind I've got my green stuff tentacle maker. So I threw that idea back out, and that went down quite well, except a rebuke against the green. And it was my good buddy Clayton from 33 Clay Dog, awesome painter, and my go-to person if I need help and advice on painting, particularly on colour choices, because he is the man. And he came up with the suggestion of using blue instead of that green, so like an electric blue. And also to have those tentacles that I was talking about that I was going to make, to paint them pink. And then I threw back a suggestion. I said, well, that sounds really good, but what about the green? So green is the opposite colour. So I threw it back at him. How about I put the green on the model, maybe around the sonic weapons, to have some sort of glow effect on the sonic weapons, so I can get green into the model. I mean, blue works with the green anyway. There is going to be blue on the model, so for example, there's sort of hair pieces on their head. That's going to be blue anyway, so I'm going to have some blue in the model. And I think that I've now found a perfect formula for my bases. So I have my base idea, and this is it. So as you can see, it's going to have that electric blue, it's going to have some highlights on it. The tentacles are going to be coming out of this sort of lava-y stuff that's going to be on this world. And I'm going to paint the tentacles pink. And then with the Marine sitting on there with his black and pink armour, some green glow effects maybe on the weapons, I think I've hit the sweet spot. That is my choice of base. I would really love to hear what you think. Please let me know. I've got some really cool ideas for this base. I'm good at obviously green stuff the tentacles. I'm good at green stuff that lava-y section as well. I'm going to use some slate. Got some slate from Poundland, just a massive bag for £1. Going to break it into little bits, put that on there. Some green stuff in sort of in between the rocks, and then some green stuff tentacles. And I was thinking I could go really all out with this. Maybe have some of the sort of tentacles coming out of this little lava-y section and wrapping around the guy's leg, etc. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to look really cool. It's going to be really different. So yeah, let me know in the comments box below what you think of my choice. Personally, I'm really happy with it, but there is still time to change my mind. So put your comments in, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Beam me up.